Welcome to another battle report, folks. This should be the last of our short desert series as we were waiting for Domination to come out. That's the German one. As you know, that's been delayed. At this time, I don't know when it's coming out, but I think we're probably just going to move on to playing Soviet Migration against German D-Day, perhaps, something like that, and not just keep holding off for the late war stuff. But we're going to get one more desert game on the go, and we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use the Domination format, which you may or may not be familiar with, and it's all about objectives, but it's objectives win points, as opposed to capture an objective and you've won the game. For this, you hold an objective, you earn a point, and the player with the most points at the end of the game is going to be the winner. So we're using quite large forces for this. We're using 150 point forces aside. Let's have a look at the Germans. So they've got a couple of formations. They've got an infantry formation, and these are using Afrika Korps rifle platoons, and they're at full strength. And they've also got 3 Pak 38s. And then you've got a Panzer III formation, which has got 2 platoons of 4 Panzer IIIs, 2 of them short-barreled 50s, 2 of them long-barreled 50s, platoon of 3 Panzer IVs, and a company HQ of 2 short-barreled 50s Panzer IIIs. And in the support, there's 3 Marders, 2 armoured car platoons, and 4 10.5 centimetre artillery. So it's quite a strong force, and it can be strong all over the table. And then the Brits, I'll just come back out. The Brits have got 3 formations. That's partly because British tanks can be quite cheap, to be honest. But we have the infantry formation of 2 full-strength rifle platoons, and 4 heavy machine guns, 4 mortars, and 4 6-pounders. So that's really quite strong. That could be strong in attack or defence and dish out a lot of punishment. They've also got 4 25-pounders. They've got a Humber armoured car and a Daimler armoured car platoons. Incidentally, obviously the artillery and armoured cars are support. And then they've got a Grant company, which has got 2 platoons of 3 Grants and a HQ platoon of 3 Grants. And then we have the Crusaders, which is my usual formation, company HQ of 2 Crusader 2s plus 2 CS Crusaders, and then 3 platoons each of 2 Crusader 3s with 1 Crusader 2. So the Crusader 3s have 6-pounders, these guys have 2-pounders. So that's brown for 6, green for 2, to make it nice and easy for everybody. So, lots of stuff on both sides. But as we know, having lots of British tanks in mid-war, especially if they're Crusaders, doesn't necessarily mean having that much of an effective fighting force. Okay, I'm just going to lock the camera here just now, folks. Explain the game a bit. So, you can see the centre of the table has been marked out. That's the centre line. There's one objective currently right in the middle of the crossroads. It's the most important point on the board. We're going to be placing, each side is going to place 2 objectives. One of them is going to be placed within the typical 8-inch box that you'll see on many missions on the back edge of the table, right? And you'll place that. Whoever's on the side, I'll be the Brits, it'll be me. I'll place one here. The Germans and Brahim will place one likewise over there. But then there'll also be another objective placed within 4 inches of the centre line. So for instance, I might want to place one here, as long as it's within 4 inches of that centre line. It doesn't have to be entirely within that 4 inches, as long as it's within 4 inches. And then Brian might want to place one, let's say there. That will be all the objectives on the table, so there's going to be 2 on this side of the centre line, 2 on that side, 1 in the middle. Now the way you're going to win this game is by holding objectives, and you hold objectives in the same way as you do in normal missions. But you get points. For instance, this objective back here, basically if I'm holding my own objective in that 8-inch box at the back, it gets me no points whatsoever. But if Brian was to hold it, he would get 3 points for every turn he was to hold it. Likewise, I would get 3 points for every turn holding Brian's. This one here, I will get Brian will get 2 points. Oh no, both of these, sorry. We'll both gain 2 points for holding these. So in the first turn I could rush up, in the second turn I could be holding it. If Brian doesn't contest it, likewise the same. So you could be earning points early doors. But basically for every turn that you hold one of these uncontested, you're going to get 2 points. Likewise the one in the middle, but that's going to be 3 points. So this game is going to be all about adding up those points. So if we both end up holding that objective each, and that's it, basically there's no points won that turn, if you can see what I mean, because we're going to get 2 points, 2 points. But if I hold that one and contest that one, I'm going to be gaining 2 points. So Brian has to not only start to contest that, but kick me off that to get some points back. So it's a game that requires constant action. You can't sit back and defeat the enemy just by shooting up his forces. You have to get in and get your forces on the objective, supported and able to withstand any attacks that are going in. Plus the amount of artillery that will go down on top of these objectives will probably be quite scary. So it's a very good action game, but it's a game that won't be over quick. It's going to be a bit of a slogging match. This game is going to have scattered reserves, immediate scattered reserves. I thought about delayed scattered reserves, but there's just too many platoons. Whenever you work out what could potentially be in reserve, it would take, stuff's not going to get to the game, so there's no point in that. It's going to last for 9 turns. It's going to be delayed scattered reserves, so on one or two, once you've nominated what your reserve is going to be, on a 1 or a 2, they come in on your left side, 3 or 4 on your back edge, 5 or 6 on your right side, and that's with 16 inches off the corners. So 90 points on, 60 points off. That's the split that we have to go for. So it's almost like having a full formation on the table, but it's still going to be lots of challenges for what you're going to have on, because you're going to look at so much that's going to be off the table, especially for the Brits, because the tanks are so cheap. So we will place the objectives, deploy, then come back for the start of the game. So deployment is complete. I'll go through the objectives first of all. So I have put my objective down there. So that's the objective that doesn't earn me any points, but can earn Brian 3 points a turn if he holds it. Now Brian has put his one behind that wood there. So we've got the central objective, which once again is worth 3 points to anybody who can hold it. And the other objectives, something I forgot to mention is that the other objectives that gain you 2 points cannot be within 16 inches of the centre one. Otherwise everything just goes right there in the middle. So Brian placed his there, and I placed mine. Let's see. You can't quite see it. It's on the other side of that building. It's right under the building, sticking out slightly on the other side of that, just to get within 4 inches of the centre line. Okay, so let's look at deployment. So first of all, on the table, I have in this corner here, platoon of 3 Humbers and an infantry platoon. Then my company HQ for my Crusaders. And a big lump in the middle here, I've got an infantry platoon plus company command, the heavy machine guns, the 6-pounders and the mortars, and they're kind of sitting on the objective. And then over in this corner I've got the 25-pounders and the Grant HQ, so that leaves a hell of a lot in reserve. There's 3 platoons of Crusaders, 2 platoons of Grants, and the Daimler patrol, which is quite a lot. Right, so Brian has got, you can see there are 2 platoons of infantry. Company command is over at this one. He's got his Panzer III company command with that group. Over here he's got his 1 platoon of Panzer IIIs, plus his observer and the Mardos behind the hill. And then behind that ridge he's got his own artillery, plus 3 Pak 38s. So that leaves off the table, oh sorry, he's also got an armoured car patrol just behind that wood, kind of looking after the objective at the moment. So off the table he's got another armoured car patrol, a platoon of Panzer IIIs and a platoon of Panzer IVs, I think. Anyway, this is a meeting engagement type battle, so there'll be no bombardments for whatever player goes first. Now, excuse all that rummaging, folks. I'm going to roll this on camera and see what player goes first. Highest going first, well, that is the Germans. Okay, so Brian will go first. There's one thing to mention as well, there's no dashing in the first turn. Domination was written for version 3, and you don't want to be getting right up to the objectives straight away, otherwise it kind of, you could just say you could dash and then say no points in the first turn, which isn't going to be anyway, but we'll just keep it simple. Cautious move in the first turn, and then after that, whatever takes your fancy. So we'll come back after the end of Brian's turn 1. German turn 1. Okay, so first of all, no reserves. So what happened this turn, the force in the middle here moved up. Tanks are keeping out of line of sight. The infantry moved into the cover of the buildings. Tried to follow me, but didn't work. That would have just edged them a little bit further up to a more defensible position where they could be gone to ground perhaps next turn, but they're okay. And then over here, the same thing happened. So they've moved into that compound, been able to contest the objectives so they can start earning points from the following turn. The Mardas moved up onto the hill, hull down, and the Panzer IIIs have moved up around the flank. Maybe want to threaten this a bit, but we'll see what happens. The only shooting was Pak 38s against that observer who you can just about make out behind the trees. The Paks had the same issues, couldn't really make anything out, and missed. So over to the Brits for their turn 1. British turn 1, no reserves. So in terms of movement, you can see I've made a beeline for that building there. Did I follow me with the infantry? Some of the infantry, most of the infantry are in the house, some are up front, and the armoured cars are hiding behind the house. The other infantry with heavy machine guns moved in to contest that objective. And then as far as any other movement is concerned, the Grants just did a little shuffle because I'm not sure what Brian's intentions are with those guys. Now I was able to bombard this turn. You don't want to go first in a meeting engagement usually. So the mortars managed to range in on these guys here. Got a couple of hits, but no kills, but they are pinned. And then the CS Crusaders got loads of hits initially on these guys. Got a good range in roll, but they missed all but one of the rerolls because there's only 2 guns. And Brian made a save, but they're pinned. And then the 25 pounders tried to range in in the same place and failed. I was thinking of maybe hitting the Pack 38s on the ridge because they could threaten my objective or the force holding the objective over here. But I thought, no, get ranged in those infantry. That's where some good points can be earned, but you know, they missed. Anyway, that's it for the first turn. Over to Brian now with 2 dice for reserves. Chairman turn 2. So starting with motivation, Brian failed to unpin these guys and these guys. So he's dug them in and just kept on going to ground. As far as reserves go, he managed to get Panzer IIIs in the road for that corner and moved in, as you can see, to attack that objective there, so that's quite a good position for him. As far as shooting goes, well, as you can see over there, the Panzer IIIs managed to kill one of the Humbers, and the Pack 38s managed to blow out one of the bases of infantry from the houses. Then the artillery ranged in, managed to get hits on the heavy machine guns and the infantry in that compound, killed one of the infantry bases. But both of those units are now pinned. They kept those Panzer IIIs back. Oh, the Marders as well, they tried shooting but had no luck. But they kept those Panzer IIIs back and moved the HQ over to support these infantry here. So that's it, but first blood to the Germans, over to Brits for their turn 2. So British turn 2, well, that went good and bad. First of all, the infantry and heavy machine guns unpinned, and then I got 2 reserves. I rolled a 2 and a 3 for my Lees, and as you can see, and as you can see, they came in over here to clobber those Panzer IVs. The absence of any smoke markers, however, might suggest it didn't go to plan. As far as other movement is concerned, the armour cars, as you can see, moved to threaten the Pack 38s. Otherwise, I stayed still. So, in terms of shooting, first of all, I forgot to put the markers down, but there is a smoke barrage from the CS Cromwells along here to render the ranged in marker invalid, you know, for the observer can't see the spot to call it in again. As I understand it, that's the rule, you have to be able to see it to be able to call in artillery, even if you've previously ranged in. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. As far as the rest of the shooting goes, the mortars continued to range in here and managed to kill the heavy machine gun and the anti-tank rifles. So that was quite good shooting. Then the sort of juicy stuff over here, the Grants got hardly any hits. They got 2 hits from 75s and 2 hits from 37s. 175 on the side resulted in a bale. It was a failed firepower to kill, and the 137 managed to get a bale on the front, believe it or not. The Pack 38s had a hard time of it though. They got destroyed by one of the rifles, believe it or not, rifle teams from that compound there, plus 25 pounder barrage, and they also took hits from the armoured cars, so they were heavily pinned. So that could have gone better for me, but Brian will be quite happy that his Panzer IVs can hopefully get back in and then dish out some damage back. And we'll go over to Brian now for his turn 3. Turn 3, where we'll be definitely getting at least one reserve. Chairman turn 3. So, in terms of motivation, the central platoon still didn't unpin. The platoon over here did. In terms of reserves, we got 1 reserve, and it was that platoon of Panzer IIIs right out on the edge of the table there. They came in that corner. As you can see, Brian's got a big lump of tank now, so he's charging forward on that side. far as other movement is concerned, he was pretty static. The armoured cars moved out to assist over here. Oh, sorry, motivation. The Pack 30 unpinned and then legged it. The Panzer IVs both got back in, which was very good for Brian. Now, in terms of shooting, Brian could have risked a blitz move to try and get more shots at the closest range targets and move his side armour out of range, but that comes with a risk and it always fails just when you don't want it to. So he stayed put. And then he's firing the tank with nearest to the Lees, to the Grant, sorry, and that the other ones that was blocking line of sight for the other ones, it fired, got 2 hits and 2 kills. The other 2 fired, got hold on, I'll bring this round, sorry. Got 2 hits, but they both saved. So it's still good shooting, but then he failed his blitz move, sorry, shoot and scoot move. But it's not so much a problem because the 2 tanks that were past his front armour are both dead. Then the armoured cars managed to bail one of the Humbers. Artillery shifted target down here, managed to range in, got a couple of pins but nothing destroyed. So that's the mortars and the anti-tank guns. And then the reserves had to go at 25 pounders and missed completely. And there was there was tons and tons of shooting against the heavy machine gun platoon that is spread across the compound and the waste ground there. So many hits, I couldn't actually tell you, but very, very few failed saves, and those that were failed were on 6 up firepower and didn't succeed. So the heavy machine guns are pinned, but still in the game. So over to me now for my turn 3, with plenty more reserves for me anyway, still to come in. The Germans just have 3 armoured cars. British turn 3, so what happened that turn? Let's start with motivations. The mortars unpinned, but 6 pounders didn't. Over here, excuse me, the bailed out Humber didn't get back in, but it passed its last stand. The surviving Grant didn't pass its last stand. And then for reserves, you can just about make them out. Behind there, I only got 1, and they came in that corner, so I've moved the Crusader platoon up to join the fight against the Panzer IIIs. Other movement, that was pretty much just the Grants going up on top of the hill. Did to try and engage all these German tanks, and doing it from hull down was the best plan. So as far as shooting goes then, first thing I did was the 25 pounders laid in a smoke barrage. It kind of sits right on top of the Panzer IIIs there, enough to make them fully inside the barrage. So they're going to have to blitz through it or take a move through it, and that was to reduce the fire coming back at these guys, especially from them nasty things. And then the rest of the shooting, the mortars are continuing to destroy that platoon there. There's only 3 bases left alive now. In fact, you can just about make out 3 bases there, so they're really struggling. Over here, the heavy machine guns managed to kill a base. The CS Crusaders ranged back in. The rest of that company command unit moved up to get some machine gun shots into that area. So they took a real pounding, but only lost 1 base. Over here, the Humbers managed to bail 1 of the German armoured cars. That was it. The infantry had to go at the armoured cars as well, including anti-tank rifle, but didn't get anything. And then as far as shooting goes, all that shooting, 3 tanks coming on from reserve, and those 3 static Grants with a full rate of fire just managed 1 hit. It was a kill though, so that wasn't so bad. So 1 of those Panzer IVs is kaput, and I managed to shoot and scoot to get my surviving Grants back into long range. They probably going to need it for next turn to stay alive. So over here, the Grants just managed 2 hits, one from a 37, one from a 75mm, and managed to destroy one of the long-barreled Panzer IIIs. So over to Brian. His last reserves will arrive. It's just armoured cars though, but he's got a good bit of momentum coming on this attack, but he's going to have to watch that objective because he won't gain points for it if there's nobody alive on it. He'll have to make a few adjustments. And just to recap, after 3 turns so far, we've all accumulated the same points. We've been getting 2 points each for that objective and the objective over there. The middle one has been contested every turn, so it's still neck and neck. German turn 4. So in terms of motivation that turn, none of the infantry unpinned. Excuse me. The infantry that were here, as you can see, they have legged it. The other guys have just stayed, gone to ground. Now, the last reserves came on, and it was these armoured cars. But Brian moved his company command over as well, so that he can leave the armoured cars theirs now, but he's got something to gain points on that objective. So the rest of the movement was, the other side of the table was just really static. Panzer IVs and armoured cars just stayed put. Over here, there was some good blitzing to take tanks out of the smoke and get shooting, and the end result of that was, between the 2 platoons, they managed to destroy 2 Grants and a 25-pounder. So it's looking pretty threadbare over here for me. A good turn for Brian. His artillery didn't kill anything this turn, even though they were ranged in already. And in the middle here, the Marders just picked on the heavy machine guns and managed to kill one. So a good turn for Brian. This side looks very threadbare for me, and I'll be doing some motivations as well. Oh sorry, over here, I forgot to mention the shooting over here. 1 Crusader got killed, 1 got bailed, both of them 6-pounders, and 1 Grant got bailed, and that was just from 2 Panzer IVs. So let's see what I can do in turn 4. So British turn 4, only got 1 reserve on, unfortunately. In terms of motivation, it was a big bug out. The armoured cars legged it. The Crusader one didn't bail back in, and so they ended up legging it as well. The mortars and anti-tank guns were okay though, as was this guy, this wee Grant here. So, whoops, I'm not taking the smoke away. The smoke is not actually there, folks. Forgot all about that. So, over here, what happened then? So these guys did direct fire. Well, my reserves came on over here, by the way. That looks like a really good position, doesn't it? Oh dear. So there was a hell of a lot of shots over there. There was a Grant, there was Crusaders, there was 25-pounders, and all that happened was there was 2 bailed and 1 destroyed Panzer III. It's very good. The first of all, the Crusaders came on, hit them in the side, got 2 hits from the 6-pounders, which the best they could hope for would be a bail, and he managed it, rolled 2 6s, and then I failed my firepowers. The damage was done to them by the 25-pounders. They managed to kill 1, bail 1, and then the surviving Grant managed to bail, because it matched the anti-tank rating again, managed to bail just 1 of those Panzer IIIs. Pretty grim. And then in the middle here, the mortars were kind of short on targets for what they could see. I've had to move my company commander around a little bit, and he can't call anything in yet, but the range down on the edge there got a couple of hits but no kills, and the Crusaders are still chucking shots in there every turn with their CS artillery bombardment and just doing nothing. And all the other shots coming from the Crusader HQ, all those infantry, did manage to kill the heavy machine gun element of that unit, but they're still in very good condition, still in very good nick. Why, these guys here moved up. Two of them, one was able to turn on the spot, stay dug in, the others moved, one could shoot, the other two couldn't. Fired through there. They might actually have been the one that got the bail, to be alright. They got the bail on the Panzer III. And then these grants over here, completely missed. Completely squiffed. So, bad turn for me, good turn for Brian. Let's see what he can do in the next turn. It's still even in terms of points though. We're going on to turn number 5, so still a few more turns to go, but I'm running out of assets. Jim at turn 5. In terms of motivations, there was the infantry in the courtyard, they unpinned. The infantry who are now running behind the nearby courtyard, they didn't unpin. The Panzer III's, one of them got back in, but the platoon stayed as there was only one left. It did a wee blitz move to get away from the line of sight of the anti-tank guns. And then everything else pretty much stayed still to shoot everything up. So, in terms of the shooting, first of all, the artillery is still having no luck against those mortars. They've not killed anything. Keep hammering away and doing nothing. Over here in the centre of the table, because they finally unpinned, they were actually able to use that single mortar tube that's in the middle beside the fountain. Now it ranged in, but didn't do anything this turn, but it will potentially do a bit of damage going forward, probably more than the two Crusaders did. The armoured cars over here, they just totally squiffed, but the infantry in there have got on the ground and they're careful, so it's not easy to hit them, but they missed. And the Panzer IVs had a bad turn for once. The grants are still intact. Then over here it was a bit weird. First of all, let's start with the Madras. Actually, they fired and managed to bail out, or failed the firepower, bailed out this guy. So Brian then used the survivor of this platoon to shoot here, plus one of those long 50s to shoot here, the other long 50 to shoot him, and the short 50s to shoot them. Well, the short 50s missed. Brian thought he'd wipe these guys out. Unfortunately, he's got them in a position where they could run away, but he's not wiped them out. And then this guy here was double bailed but made a save. So it could have gone a lot worse for me that turn. There's a wee bit of a swings and roundabouts as far as luck goes. But I'm still in a pretty bad position, and Brian's still got potentially quite a lot of tanks. Depends on my motivations. So we'll just go over to my turn 5. I'll get more reserves. I've still got more reserves to come on. I've got so many platoons, and we'll see what happens from there. So British turn 5. In terms of motivation, the Grant liked it. The Crusader there got back in. The heavy machine guns in here unpinned, as did the mortars. And then as far as movement goes, I've got one reserve again, and he came in over here again, which was quite handy, because at least there's a wee bit of concentration of armour there now. And that was it really, well, apart from anti-tank guns manoeuvring to try and get some shots. So in terms of shooting then, well, first of all, holy smoke, at long last, 9 of my British tanks have finally managed to destroy all those Panzer IVs. And then I did a wee shooting scoot back to there. Why, these guys backed off, they can't really hurt the company command there that's shooting at them. Then as far as the rest of the shooting goes over here. The 25 pounders rolled 4 ones. But for once, I've actually managed to hit using 6 pounders of Crusaders on the move, and they could only target one German tank the way things were set up, but I managed to destroy it. The 2 pounder also managed to get a hit, but it saved. Once again, here this Belgian one got hit by a 6 pounder on the side, and the best I could do was a bail, but then the 2 pounder managed to destroy the one in front. So they're getting whittled down. They could still clobber me in one turn and wipe me out, but at least they're getting whittled down. But sort of more dramatically though is over here, they took an absolute hammering. The mortars ranged in again, they ranged their macro over and did some casualties. The heavy machine guns and the infantry combined did a lot of damage. The CS Crusaders are still not doing much of anything, but there's only one base of infantry left alive in that platoon. He is within distance to contest the objective, but I'm getting close. He's going to have to move assets up there. I'm getting close to getting a 2-point lead, which is quite hard to overturn. He's going to have to counter-attack strongly, but we'll see what happens in turn 6. German turn 6. One important thing we got wrong last time, we've just fixed it, is my grants were broken, so I wasn't able to destroy his Panzer IVs. They legged it. There was only one platoon left, so the Panzer IVs are still alive. They're over there now, he's trying to shoot up that house to try and take that objective. They don't have any infantry support to speak of, so it's probably not going to happen. The company command moved forward to help contest that objective. Brian moved his armoured cars over because there was a real threat of an assault over there, so he's got counter-fire to try and push it off. I'll have to see if I can do it anyway. The Marders clobbered these guys, only got 2 hits and failed the firepowers, but the combination of that tank there never got back in but stayed. But the combination of those remaining Panzer IIIs in one turn wiped them out, left one of them bailed, but that was enough to destroy the formation. There's nothing left to come on. I've only got a platoon of Daimlers left to come on. But it's about points this game, so I'm not going to give up yet. Let's see what will happen in the next couple of turns. British turn 6. Almost achieved something there. The last reserve came on. These guys. The Daimler Patrol, that's the last armour I've got on the table. My main focus here in this turn was obviously, I don't have very much left. I've got my infantry element left. So, everything that needed to unpinned. The infantry over there just held the ground. Here I got ready for an assault. I moved everybody up. I got my mortars to put down a smoke barrage. The artillery tried to range in to do some damage against the armoured cars. Didn't happen. But basically I moved up into assault position. Oh, sorry. Right. These guys and anti-tank guns managed to bail out a Panzer III's hidden behind the smoke screen. So that was looking good. There was the armoured cars, 3 bases of infantry and 1 tank for counter fire. And before I rolled the armoured cars, he was up to 4 hits in counter fire. Then the armoured cars all missed thanks to the smoke, and only because of the smoke. So in the assault, I charged in with 6 bases in contact against 3, and I killed 2. 1 survived. Only got 2 hits out of 6. It's pretty terrible. He counter-attacked with 1 tank and the company command and killed 2 bases. I then failed in my motivation to counter-attack, even with my company command there to help with the motivation. So I very nearly pushed him back. I would have got 3 points for that because I would have been in possession of the objective at the end of my turn. As it was, there's still a lot going on there. If I kill that that company command, sorry, his infantry platoon is broken. So I'm going to focus on that just now whilst I try and hold on. German turn 7, so not too much to do in this turn. First of all, the company commander, excuse me, I'll just get that back up. Company commander unpinned, as did that platoon infantry that were going around the back of this house, and they've moved over and joined the company commander. The tanks are staying out of line of sight. The armoured cars are staying within 4 inches of this objective, with one of them by getting in a position to do counter-fire. The Marders are coming down to just support that objective, as there's not really any tanks left to destroy. Over here, these Panzer IIIs managed to knock out one of the 25-pounders. There wasn't any shooting done against the infantry because there was no real targets. Nothing could really target them, sorry. The Panzer IIIs, surviving ones, Brian's moving them around. He's realised he could shoot them all day and not kill them. Needs 60s to hit them because I've got on the ground and he can't come in after me. So, they're coming around to put pressure on this objective, and incidentally still got those armoured cars there in case I get crazy and come out after them, which I might do, but so maybe going to come down to what happens here. So that's about it. Oh, so the artillery came after the mortars again, and they managed to range in, hit a couple. Once again, these mortars are artillery proof. They don't seem to want to be hurt by them at all. So, over to me for British turn 7. British turn 7, my infantry didn't unpin, everything else did. The, let me see, in terms of movement, the armoured cars moved up to get some shots on the infantry. One anti-tank gun pointed over in this direction. The 25-pounders just faced down the Panzer IIIs. The observer budged over to there, behind the house, just for something to do. In terms of shooting, the mortars managed to range in, but didn't cause any hits, I think, any hits at all. One anti-tank gun here fired through that channel and missed, and these guys needed 60s to hit at range and cover. So, nothing there. Heavy machine gun and rifle fire from these guys. Got quite a few hits on the Germans, but no no successful firepowers. So they're pinned, but they're still very much in one piece. So over to Brian for German turn 8, where things are looking like it's going to be a very, very hard fought draw. But we'll keep going with it and see how it goes. German turn 8. Right, so pretty much everything stayed put, to be honest, apart from the Panzer III Company Command. They blitzed out to get some shots down the road. Actually, we'll check if they can shoot and scoot back, just because there's anti-tank guns looking down that road. But they came out to have a go at the armoured cars with some support from the Panzer IVs. So in terms of shooting, well, the Panzer IVs missed, but the Panzer IIIs got those armoured cars. The infantry stayed going to ground, so the Marders and armoured cars had to go at these infantry and didn't really do anything to them at all. Here the Panzer IIIs managed to get 2 hits onto the 17-pounders. They both rolled a 1 for their saves, and then Brian rolled 2 1s for his firepowers. And then over here, these armoured cars took a few more pot shots at the compound, doing nothing. And once again, these guys are proven to be immune to artillery. Only 1 hit, 1 fail, but then they fail firepower again. So, that was the last chance, I think, to make any real impression, but we'll keep playing on and see how we go. So in my turn, nothing happened really. He didn't run away, which was nice. Brian never managed to shoot and scoot there. I fired at them with these guns, got one hit, which he saved. That one fired up through there and missed. These two fired and missed. Didn't unpin. Got a few shots into the infantry. Didn't really do anything. So we're just going to call it. There's no point moving on to turn 9 because it's not going to make a substantial change to the outcome. We've been well balanced throughout on both sides. I had a turn where I almost won it. Even if I managed to hold on for that turn, I might have been able to do it for longer as well. But there you go. The dice don't always let you do what you want. I have to say in this game, once again, my Brits in mid-war tend to be quite poor at luck. The tactics as well, my tactics aren't necessarily any good, but they're quite poor at luck. These guys here, for instance, they're really good tanks in mid-war. They're careful, anti-tank 9 with a backup gun of anti-tank 7. Front armour 5, I mean, they're not bad at all. But whenever they go up against even Panzer IIIs, they end up getting the backside kicked. So they don't have a lot of luck. But these guys just get smashed to bits. Good old dependable German tanks. So I mean, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, we've been forgetting all about him. He may or may not be dead. He may be back in action, but they've lost about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks on the German side and everything on the British side. Let me think. 7 or 8 of them ran away, but it's still not very good. But the British infantry held on very well, very strong. They were a bit unlucky, as I said, in not getting a decisive move on the go. And the artillery that they had on this, the British side, was quite handy in terms of smoking and also causing quite a few casualties, with the mortars being causing a hell of a lot of casualties to the enemy and simply refusing to die. So there you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a different kind of mission, but you can see the complexities of it. That's the other objective there, by the way, hidden under there. But if you can imagine the objectives were close to each other, you could force your opponent into a much more head-on clash if it suited your lists. So there's lots of different ways of playing this mission and hopefully getting a few challenges for your lists. Maybe you just want to do it with smaller lists, but if you do, I recommend that you start with everything on the table, because there's so many objectives to cover. So you need bigger lists or everything on the table. But there you go, Domination in the Desert, folks. Hopefully, as I said, you enjoyed the game, and hopefully the next time you see us, we'll be doing some kind of Bagration late war battle. Thanks again, folks.